The Jamaican economy is primarily service-driven, with approximately 80% of GDP coming from the service sectors. Its primary export industries are mining, agriculture, and tourism, reflecting a heavy dependency on natural resources. A green economy forms part of the Vision 2030 plan of making Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. The Green Economy Scoping Study for Jamaica notes that critical to this is diversifying trade and investment and building resilience to shocks from the international economy.
At the level of the economic, we pointed out some things that were being done, perhaps the most obvious one being the broadening of international trade relations and the attempt to reduce the dependence on imports, and with regard to environmental shocks, of course, we brought in the issue of disaster preparedness and climate change policy.
Greening the economy entails shifting the focus towards sustainable economic practices through the use of natural resources and enhancing productivity through a highly trained workforce and thriving micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Effectively doing this means mapping the country's approach to the greening process through a scoping study. But why a scoping study? The scoping study, which forms part of a larger regional study, was commissioned to provide useful information to key stakeholders in order to improve the formation of practical and policy initiatives to advance an inclusive green economy in Jamaica. The study was a collaboration between UWI Consulting Company on behalf of the Government of Jamaica and the United Nations Environment Programme with financial support from the European Union. The Green Economy Scoping Study for Jamaica points to 5 sectors as its focal point, namely agriculture, construction, energy, tourism, and water.
Now, this study came up with several recommendations, and they span across different sectors. They include promoting inclusive growth, diversifying energy, water management, provide financial incentives for greening, and public-private partnership arrangements. Now, from my study of the literature, a lot of countries that have a 2030 vision have similar recommendations, so no doubt these are definitely plausible, and we look forward to Jamaica including these.
Let's take a look at agriculture. The study found that the successful greening of Jamaica's agriculture sector will depend largely on how well the country can capitalize on new emerging production opportunities and markets for green goods and services. There have also been programs geared towards resuscitating and improving production in certain key sectors in the industry, such as ginger, Irish potato, onions, banana, coffee, cocoa, and turmeric. The study recommends the following strategies for moving the sector forward: support for sustainable land management, enacting land reform, creating improved water management systems, providing incentives for investments in green technologies, diversifying energy sources, conducting research into climate-resilient varieties of plants and animals, providing green agriculture extension services, and creating a policy framework for greening agriculture. The study determined that the greening of the construction industry is a multifaceted process that cuts across many sectors of the Jamaican economy. The industry is increasingly affected by the effects of climate change.
In design, there are many things we can look at. From how we situate buildings, passive cooling, so we use less energy. We have a lot of buildings that are badly designed. Even in clearing a site, you need to be careful. Are there trees on the site that would be useful for shade later? Are there parts of the building that you're taking away or removing that could be used in the foundation? There were all these things that they mandated us to look at, and I thought this is really something that everybody should do. And it's not hard, it didn't cost me anything, it just required me to put a little effort and thought. And I really think there is much more of that we could do.
Additionally, the scoping study identified a number of strategies for the construction industry. These include enacting the National Building Act and enforcing the new Building Code of Jamaica, adopting codes and standards that mandate green construction practices, developing a local green building rating system, reviewing and revising the existing development orders and other planning guidelines to reflect sustainable planning principles, providing financial incentives for the use of green building solutions, while expanding training programs in sustainability-related fields to ensure a sufficient supply of adequately trained workers. Jamaica's green economy must also be looked at in the context of its energy mix. Ideally, the country would need to trade in its dependency on imported oils for renewables like wind and hydro energy.
Energy, if it's too expensive, if it's not readily available, if it's not accessible, is going to be a brake on any economic growth of any color, whether it be green, blue, brown, black, or whatever. So you've got to have good energy projects.
Jamaica has already made shrinking the cost of energy a priority, with policies geared towards reducing its carbon footprint. Notably, the study points to several strategies in reaching our energy goals. These are maintaining the exemption of duties and taxes on energy efficiency and renewable energy equipment, increasing the price offered for power to the national grid under net billing, providing financial facilities for renewable energy and efficiency enhancement projects, discouraging the importation of inefficient motor vehicles while encouraging energy-reducing transportation measures, implementing the Energy Efficiency Building Code, and promoting the conservation of energy and water. It is estimated that approximately 75% of the water produced is used for agricultural purposes, 17% for domestic uses, and the balance of 8% for tourism and industrial purposes.
So the primary business opportunities within the water and sewerage sector. The government in the 2000 had a national water policy which introduced private sector participation. I understand that the draft water policy for 2015 also continues that approach. NWC revenue at a service efficiency of 31% was 24.167 billion in 2013-14. At 70%, it should be about 55 billion. So in essence, there's a business opportunity of about $30 billion that could be obtained by simply increasing the efficiency from 31 to 70.
With its 2030 goal of all persons having access to a safe and reliable water supply, the government of Jamaica is also considering service areas such as water supply, wastewater management, irrigation, and flood control. Other initiatives include developing local catchment facilities, building a culture of rainwater harvesting, as well as responsible and efficient water use, developing more extensive sewage recycling, implementing cost recovery systems, reducing energy costs and diversifying sources, implementing a rural water supply strategy, providing sewage services, continuing to follow an integrated water resource management approach, and planning for climate change adaptation. With terms like green tourism and ecotourism, the tourism sector accounts for 40% of the foreign exchange earned and in excess of 11% for GDP. The scoping study determined that a green tourism strategy will mean increased size and diversity of the tourism workforce as additional and more specialized skills are mobilized to ensure new green standards in tourism entities.
Dealing with educating the hotel sector about sustainability actually gives you an opportunity to look at just about every sector and section and personality that you might have to deal with. And what we have learned is there are technologies available. There are options and opportunities. We are in the information age. There's whatever you want to do, there's an app to do it. However, if you don't bring the basic reason, the why of your green economy and your green drive to the staff and to the people who are actually going to do what needs to be done, you will find yourself dead in the water before you realize you're in the water.
Jamaica's leading hoteliers are more sensitive to the value of a healthy environment and the need to reduce the cost of energy through conservation and the use of renewable energy sources. The study outlines a number of strategies for this industry as well. These include promoting and incentivizing renewable energy use and water use reduction, planning for sea level rise and the other impacts of climate change, developing and implementing branding and marketing strategies emphasizing green elements of tourism, providing green investment incentives, promoting investment in and providing incentives for small, medium, and micro enterprises, and leveraging public-private partnerships. The scoping study recommends that government sends the appropriate signals through policies and regulations that incentivize green investments while disincentivizing brown investments. The aim is to guide private and public consumption away from practices that are harmful to both public health and the environment.
Also, what was important was the management of human and social capital. You can't grow an economy without well-educated, qualified, technically qualified, and otherwise qualified people. And one of the big problems in moving countries towards a green economy was a shortage of people who could do the job. Whether it be adopting green technology or whatever it might be, there was a shortage of people, and not necessarily a program to train those people.
Now, construction industry, to go to a global view now, it really affects many of the sustainable development goals, including Goal 6, water, Goal 7, energy, Goal 8, jobs and economic growth, 9, infrastructure, 11, sustainable cities, and 13, that we overall protect the planet.
Ultimately, the success of greening the economy will depend on the profitability of green investments and creating solutions by aligning the goals and interests of all stakeholders.